So if you like gaming, you're on YouTube, you've probably heard of What Culture. It's a group of guys from Newcastle with girls, group of guys and girls from Newcastle, and they make videos about films, games, all that sort of stuff. Well, they have a playlist on their channel called Chatty Faces, which I really enjoy. If you haven't seen it, go check it out, because I'm stealing their content. Basically, it's just interviews with them, asking them gaming questions. Now, there's only one of me, so I can't make a series of things. What I can do is take all the questions they've done, put them in a list, ask them back to myself. So without further ado, here we go. Everything you've ever wanted to know about my gaming opinions. Unpopular opinion time. So my worst gaming opinion is definitely that the future parts in Assassin's Creed are the best parts of the entire game. The bits where you're playing as Desmond are genuinely the only bits that give the game sort of a coherent storyline between the different chapters. If you were constantly just playing as people from the past, how boring would that be? I mean, it's great that you get to see all these different places, but once you've seen one sort of like significant historical period, you've seen them all. Am I right? And I know what you're thinking. No, you're not right. If you were right, it wouldn't be an unpopular opinion, and you, sir, would be right yourself. But my point is that the sections where you jump forward and play as Desmond in the future, or now, present, whenever Desmond is, don't really care, to be honest. But that's got an actual interesting original story to it. If that bit wasn't there, you'd just be jumping back in time and playing a memory. That's not fun, is it? Is it? It's not. It's not fun. I've managed to put myself on the spot here. I didn't think I'd actually have to prepare answers for these questions. I thought I'd know them. But the worst video game boss comes from Uncharted 2, and now I'm going to have to butcher his name because I can't remember it. Lazavarek? Lavazza Coffee. Pretty bad boss. So he's the main sort of antagonist for the entire story. He's pretty feeble at the best of times, I'm not going to be honest, but Uncharted 2 is probably the best of all of them, apart from Uncharted 4. It's the second best of all of them, and it's all set under the precedent that there's some supernatural stuff going on. But you don't know that until later on. So as the levels progress, it's likely to get pulled further away from reality. But essentially, the main boss, Lavazza Coffee, turns into this supernatural, superhuman being thing, and then the final boss fight of the game is literally just you running away, creating a bit of distance, turning around, shooting. It's not a great way to end an Uncharted game, is it? It's not. Well, I'd take FIFA, wouldn't I? I'd take FIFA 19, whatever the most recent one was that was out when I'm going to this desert island. I could literally play FIFA until I died. Apart from FIFA, I'd go back, take my PS3 and take Skate 3, because that's another one. Skate 3 is probably my favourite game for sheer enjoyability. So FIFA, Skate 3, clock massive amounts of hours on them. And the last one I'd pick would be, or maybe The Sim. No, I'd take Cities and Skylines, and I'll tell you why I take that. Is because I've never actually played it, but it looks like it would take a considerable amount of time to get any good at it. So my third game would be Cities and Skylines, and I would build a civilization and then just cry about what I'm missing. So what do I think the toughest moral choice in video games is? The toughest choice I've ever had to make, where I've actually had to turn the game off and sit and think about it, is when you're playing Fallout 4 and you have to choose a faction. Because there's all these cool people. You got the underground guys, can't remember what they're called. You got the Brothers of Steel, who if you played Fallout 3 you kind of like anyway. You got all the different people going on in the Commonwealth, whatever is going on. I'm not gonna lie, I haven't played this game in about a year and a half, so I can't remember the names. You got the 50s guys, the original guys from the start, Minutemen, you got them as well. And then you have to choose one of them to align yourself to. Now that isn't even the toughest part. Later on in the game you find, am I allowed to say this? Spoiler warning. you find your long lost son, Sean, and he's part of this big future civilization. They've sort of rejuvenated the way life is going, made it all great, tip top, spickety spam. And then you have to choose whether you want to betray your faction to join this new faction. And you're just like, stop making me make choices. I'm not here for choices. I just want to go in slow motion and shoot some sort of troll creature in the face. Easy answer this. Hercules, the action game, level 3, the Centaur's Forest. Now, I haven't played this since I was about 6-7 years old, but I never completed it, never got past it. Played it for days, always got to the same bit, always started again, got to level 3. Couldn't beat the Centaur. I don't even remember what you had to do. He charged at you, you had to jump over him. Never did it. Hardest game ever. Never got past it. Yeah. Battletoads, nothing on this. What game would I like to see on the PlayStation Classic? So the PlayStation Classic's coming out. It's going to have loads of great games, I'm sure. There's one I'm pretty sure it's not going to have, and I absolutely loved. I don't know anyone else that's played this game that isn't in my family, but it's called Trap Runner. So it's a great PS1 game. From what I remember, it's single player and multiplayer, but there's people running around on a 2D level. You sort of top-down view, and all you do is you set traps up to then kill the other people. And the entire premise of the game is not to fall into other people's traps. It's a bit like Bomberman, but more advanced, and the traps are different every time. It's great. I'd love to play that again. I really would. That's the equivalent of a QuickTime event in real life. What? Right. I play video games so I can sort of mentally take a step back from life, immerse myself in a new environment. Bad culprit of this, Spider-Man on PS4. Now, I love the game, but it's got some flaws, and the amount of QuickTime events was one of them. I was just sitting there watching something go by. I was like, oh, I'm going to enjoy this great action scene that's been directed and written very well. And then all of a sudden it'd be like, tap X now or you're going to die. It'd be like, I want to watch Spider-Man for a second. Calm down. Just want to watch Spidey do his thing. Don't want to have to press R2. Don't have to press L2. The worst part is they're not even like skillfully challenging. So what is the point in them? All they're doing is making sure you've actually still got your controller in hand, like some sort of like focus-driven ADD sufferer. Jesus. What is my most replayable game? Now, I could play FIFA and Skate 3 over and over again. I already said that in the Desert Island one. So technically, I've clocked up more hours on them than anything else. But for replayability, it's got to be The Last of Us. It's the only game I've played the story mode more than 3 times. The only other game I've played more than twice was Turok on PS3. And I don't remember that. So Last of Us has got to be. I played it through 7 times. And every time, I find things that I didn't know were there before. And that is wonderful. Why else do you play a game if not to be entertained? What scarred me for life? Life scarred me for life. Have you been outside? But no, in all seriousness, okay, I'm going to break this down into 2. There's a moment in Heavy Rain where you have to choose whether to cut your finger off to get part of an address to save your son. Now you have to choose the finger and everything, if I remember correctly. And it's not that scary, but it has scarred me for life, because now every time someone new comes into my life, I judge them on whether I would cut a finger off to save them from drowning. I don't think that's a normal thing to do, and I blame Heavy Rain entirely for the fact my subconscious makes me think that. So that's one of them. Now, as a game, the one that scared me the most was Alien Isolation. I genuinely couldn't finish it. Wasn't even really scared of the alien. I just couldn't take the tension. It was constant, I felt like my heart pressure was actually getting worse. Got to the point where the people I was playing with, turning to them and saying, why am I even playing this? What is enjoyable about being immaculately scared for like 7 hours? Like, you're not waiting for anything, you're just waiting to die, and it's gonna happen because it's completely procedurally generated. Don't know if that's the right term, but that alien's gonna pop out at you, you know it, so what's the point in playing that? You can't control anything, you can't beat it, all you've got to do is lie there and take it. So I didn't get past like the halfway mark because I knew I was just gonna die, and honestly, didn't really care for the story that much, so I was just scared shitting myself for no reason. Yeah, so Alien Isolation. Pretty damn scary stuff. Now, there's no game I play and particularly feel guilty about, except from South Park. Those 2 games when I'm at my mum and dad's and my mum walks in and wonders why everyone's throwing shit at each other. But apart from that, no, there's no single game that I feel guilty about playing. However, my guilty pleasure is boasting, especially when I'm on sports games. Madden and FIFA, if I've got a headset on, I'm just the worst. I've had to have friends pause the game, tell me to calm down before restarting, because I don't care who I'm playing. If little Jimmy, who's 12-year-old, plays me on FIFA and I score, I am going to be sending some very personal offensive threats his way. And it's not personally targeted at Jimmy. I'm sure he's great. He's doing his GCSEs at 12. No, he's doing something at 12, but I'm sure he's doing great. But the fact is, he lost to me on FIFA. He may not have even lost, to be honest. He could have just conceded a goal, but I'm going to be sending some hatred his way. Now, what's guilty about that is, even after people have told me to calm down, I go back and look at the clips and find it absolutely hilarious. I'm my own biggest fan. I love the things that I just spew out while I'm in the moment. So yeah, boasting and offending people on FIFA. That's my biggest guilty pleasure. So the most emotional moment in gaming for me came from The Last of Us. Now, I've already brought it up a few times. It's not going to be the moment you think of. It's not the bit where Sarah dies. That is very sad. But it's the bit in chapter 6 where you get on a boat that's washed up from shore and you find a note that's from a guy called Ish. Now, I missed all this the first time I played it, and this is exactly what I'm talking about. You have to play The Last of Us a couple of times. The first time I played it, I just got the story out of the way. Now, for the second time, I went through collecting all the memorabilia, and that was supposed to be collecting all the memorabilia. And you find this note from a guy called Ish. Basically says he went out to sea, came back, lost faith in humanity, but eventually finds these people to trade with who have been living in the sewers nearby. I think they're headed up by a guy called Kyle, if I remember. And they decide to trade together and eventually form a community living out of the sewers. You find little clues to these things, like scribblings on walls and more notes and things. And then there's a scene at the end of the... There's this note you collect towards the end, and you see it laid out in front of you. And it just shows what happened, because I think it just says in blood on the floor, they didn't suffer. And you see these body bags and you tend to figure out what's going on, but what it turns out is that someone left a door open and the infected just flooded the sewers, and this guy Kyle basically had to kill these children that were with him, and it's just horrible. It is. In the best ways, you don't even see it. It's not something that happens straight in front of you. You have to look for it. But it shows you sort of what everyone's going through. It's not just Joel and Ellie. Humanity is sort of crippling itself, but then there's these insane moments of humanity displayed by people having to put children out of their misery so that the infected don't get to them, they don't come back. And right in front of your eyes, you can just imagine this civilization just crumbling. It's like a microcosm for the entire world. I believe microcosm's a word. I think it is. But yeah, it's insanely sad. And I just remember walking into this room, reading the notes and figuring it out, and just tears started streaming down my eyes. The only other time that's been nearly as sad is Aunt May in Spider-Man. That was just like, oh, it was very sad. But The Last of Us takes it for me. My biggest achievement in gaming is one I'm also a little bit ashamed of. So I managed to 100% Arkham Knight, and it's the only game I've ever 100%ed, because I'm not that good at games apart from FIFA. To get it, you have to beat 245 Riddler trophies. Now, was Arkham Knight the best game in the trilogy? No, definitely not. However, was it a fun-filled affair where you got to run around on PS4 saying, "I'm Batman," several times just to your TV? Damn bloody right it was. So I really enjoyed it. I kept playing it. And then I got to the end of the game. And I think it gave you a warning. Something happened that told me I was going to finish. And I got told that you only get a secret ending if you 100% the game, which meant getting 245 Riddler trophies. 245 Riddler trophies. And for each of them, you had to do little challenges. Not only do you have to do the challenges, you had to find the challenges first and figure out what was going on. It was awful. And in the time that it took me to complete these 245 Riddler trophies, I went through a serious breakup, had the flu, and graduated from university, all in the space of about 3 months. But at the end, I 100%ed Arkham Knight. Am I proud of it? No. Is it my biggest achievement? Yeah. The most time I've spent on one game. This is a little bit depressing to admit. So you know the PlayStation Network sends you those emails at the end of the year, just informing you what your favourite game was for that year. It tells you how many hours you played. If you haven't got one, it's probably going into your junk, because that's where it belongs, and it can actually mentally harm you. For me, it was FIFA 15. The reason being, that was the year I went off to university and decided to focus all my time on staying in my dorm room and playing FIFA 15 and Dead Island consistently. That was all I really played. At the end of the year, I got a nice email through, just Sony, just informing me that you clocked up 312 hours on FIFA 15. 312 hours? I don't even significantly remember FIFA 15. I don't remember any of the features that were introduced that year or anything, because I've played every one since and they all blur into one at this point. But 312 hours is a significant amount of time. In fact, I'm thinking what I'll do is figure out how much that is in days and whatnot, and put some things up right here telling you what I could have done with 312 hours of time. All of it could have been done while I was playing FIFA 15. That's ridiculous, and I'm kind of ashamed. The biggest letdown in gaming. There's a few of these that pop to mind. No Man's Sky is the obvious one, but I'm not going to talk about that. What I am going to talk about is one that not many people will think of, and it's Star Wars Battlefront. Not 2, the first one, because with 2 I didn't really expect much, because the first one was such a letdown. Now I'm talking about the rejuvenated series, the sort of refresh, reboot, if you will. The PS2 game, Star Wars Battlefront 2, was one of the best games on the console. It was fantastic. It was exactly what it needed to be, and it deserved the name Battlefront. Whereas the one that came back out on the PS4, I think there's something like a max, like there's 2 of you on the team or something, or you went out and there was like 20 people fighting each other. It was crap. There was no sense of immersion in this big war that was going on. You were just like little group battles. It didn't make any sense, and it wasn't what the game was supposed to be. And then they threw in Jedis, and it just didn't feel the same when you couldn't run around slaughtering 100 people in a time limit. So for that, Star Wars Battlefront 1. Didn't even buy 2 because I knew it was going to be a letdown. Heard everyone complaining about it. They only had themselves to blame. You played one, you knew it was shocking. Why still give your money to EA? I hope you've enjoyed watching this, guys. It was fun to do. I really hope the guys over at What Culture never see this. Probably won't. But I really hope they don't, because I'm just stealing their content. Stealing all the content. Yeah. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, give me a thumbs up, because I need it. I really need it. Give me a subscribe button if you like the way I talk and the things I do. And hopefully I'll catch you in the next video. Bye for now.